Notice I have my Oklahoma Red Hawks shirt on. This is what used to be the Oklahoma City team before the Dodgers took them and ruined them, of course. Sorry, Chris Wall, but that's the way it goes. They used to be cool. Red Hawks. I mean, how cool is that? You get the big hawk and the whole nine deals. And I also have on my Bobby Mercer cancer tournament golf hat. So you have to dress the part for Oklahoma baseball. But that's primarily what I want to talk about. Everybody knows the big guys from Oklahoma. Johnny Bench, Mickey Mantle, Warren Spahn. If you don't, just go to Bricktown and you'll see them all out there. Big statues of all of them. And they're obvious. I mean, they should be there. I mean, Mantle, probably the greatest player who ever lived had he been sober and healthy. Unbelievable player. Had the record for the longest ball, still has the record for the longest ball hit during a game, and forever had the fastest time to first base, coming out of the same human being. I think somebody either tied or beat his record to first base, and then there's some little guy like Ichiro Suzuki, I think, was who did it. But it was pretty impressive. And everybody knows I love Mantle, and I could spend like 3 hours talking about Mantle, but there's a couple of people that don't know as much about Warren Spahn, for example. Spahn is the winningest left-handed pitcher in the history of baseball. No left-handed pitcher has ever won more games. And he spent 3 years in World War II in combat. That kind of, lowered the number a little bit. This man fought at the Battle of the Bulge. I have no idea. If you've ever been to Hartshorn, Oklahoma, there's supposedly a statue of him there. I haven't seen it. I know there's a statue of him at Bricktown, and I think there's one in Broken Arrow where he's buried. He lived a long time in Broken Arrow. He was born in New York, but as an infant was brought to Hartshorn, Oklahoma, where he was pretty much raised, and became this unbelievable ball player. He was a 1957 Cy Young Award winner. They actually beat the Yankees in the World Series in '57. That was pretty rare at the time. My favorite Spahn story was he was in his 40s, in the early 60s, pitching against Juan Marichal. They went 15 innings. This nothing or 1-1. I don't remember which, but Marichal got in a little trouble somewhere toward the 13th or 14th inning, and Alvin Dark from Comanche, Oklahoma, was his manager, and went out to take Marichal out of the game. And Marichal refused to go out of the game. He just wouldn't give up the ball. He said, as long as that old man is pitching, I'm pitching. And he went on. In the 15th inning, Willie Mays homered to beat Spahn. But that was pretty good accomplishment for a 40-something-year-old man at the time. And you go through Hartshorn, there's not a billboard, there's nothing there that says, welcome to the home of Warren Spahn, nothing. It's almost as, I'm sure that statue's there somewhere if you want to drive around Hartshorn, which probably wouldn't take long. It looks like Clara. Actually, Clara's probably bigger. But that's one of the guys that people miss. The other great pitcher that they miss is one of my all-time favorites that I didn't ever see play. I learned about him later, Reynolds. This is another one of my campaigns for this guy belongs in the Hall of Fame. Like Thurman Munson belongs in the Hall of Fame. Reynolds belongs in the Hall of Fame. This is just some of the stats on Reynolds. He was a 6-time All-Star. He was a 6-time World Series champion. He was a 2-time strikeout champion. He threw 2 no-hitters in the same year. His lifetime pitching record was 187 wins and 102 losses, a .630 winning percentage. That's pretty good. As a matter of fact, it's close to being the best if it's not, with anybody with that many victories. He was the 1951 Hickok Belt winner. At the time, it was given to the best professional athlete in the United States. He's a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation from Bethany, Oklahoma. The baseball field at OSU is named after him. It's the Allie Reynolds Field. He was a track and football and baseball star in high school. He went to OSU, although at the time it was an Aggie school. It was Oklahoma A&M, and was on the track field throwing the javelin when Henry Iba, the great OSU coach, saw him and recruited him to pitch batting practice, which he did without warming up and struck out everybody he faced. And he wound up being a member of the OSU team before he wound up. So a javelin thrower, 100-yard dash. You know, this guy was an athlete, and he has great baseball statistics. I have no idea why he's not in the Hall of Fame. It's sad, actually, is what it is. But a few of the other guys, I'm not going to go through this whole list. There's guys you would not. Most people don't know Willie Stargell's from Oklahoma. He was born in Oklahoma and left very early. Earlsboro, Oklahoma, which is about like Hartshorn, I think. Joe Carter is an Oklahoma native. He's at least in the Canadian Hall of Fame. Johnny Ray from Choteau, he was 1982 Rookie of the Year, finished after a 10-year career with a .290 batting average. Pepper Martin, the wild horse of the Osage, St. Louis Cardinals in the 30s, a little alcohol problem. Freddie Patek, my favorite short guy, 5'5", 3-time All-Star, stolen base champion. UL Washington, who I was on the same Legion team with. Hall of Famer Paul Wainer, Big Poison. His little brother Lloyd Wainer, Little Poison. Greatest stories about them is how they got their nicknames Big Poison and Little Poison. You go play in the Northeast and they call you the Big Poison and the Little Poison. And that got converted to Big Poison, Little Poison. The Big Poison really belongs in the Hall of Fame. The Little Poison got in the Hall of Fame because he was Big Poison's brother. He really probably shouldn't have got there. Both of those guys were born in Hara, Indian Territory. And of course the guy whose cap I'm wearing, and my second favorite Oklahoma player, the guy that I inherited after Mantle retired, Bobby Mercer, Oklahoma City. He spent 2 years in the Army in 65 and 66 that he missed. And he's the only New York Yankee who was teammates with Mickey Mantle, Whitey Ford, Thurman Munson, Elston Howard, Roger Maris, Reggie Jackson, Don Mattingly, and Ron Guidry. That's a pretty good span of players to be teammates with. He delivered one of the eulogies at Thurman Munson's funeral when Munson died in a plane crash. Went out the next day. They played against Baltimore and were behind. Let's see if I've got it down here somewhere. They were behind 4-0. He hit a 3-run homer in the 7th. Came up in the bottom of the 9th and hit a walk-off 2-run single to beat the Orioles 5-4 the day after Munson's funeral. He won 3 Emmys as a broadcaster. And this guy is another guy that's getting screwed. He may not be a Hall of Famer, but he definitely belongs in Yankee Stadium's Monument Park. I cannot believe he does not have a plaque in Monument Park, Yankee Stadium. Only guy, of course, I left off like Jim Thorpe, who really was not much a baseball player, but he is in Football Hall of Fame, and he did play professional baseball 5 or 6 years. The only full-blood, or the first, maybe the only full-blood Native American that is there. Somewhere I have Todd Fuller's book called 60 Feet 6 Inches, The Distance to Home, which is about him. Moses Yellowhorse. Fascinating guy. Only played a couple of years with Pittsburgh. Alcoholism knocked him out. He came back and led a very good life, but you don't find very many full-blood natives. Johnny Callison, a personal favorite from Qualls, Oklahoma, who played for the Phillies and the Yankees and a bunch of other people. But get to look and you'll be amazed. Bobby Cox, the Braves manager from Tulsa. I already mentioned Alvin Dark from Comanche. And I'm leaving off one guy because that'll be another story.